Firstly, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to come tonight and give up some of your precious time to do this. I really appreciate it. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we go. So put your phone on mute or silent so we don't get calls. I will probably have to mute you during the presentation, but you can always stick up your hand. I see Vanessa's already done that. If you've got a question, I'm going to have a Q&A session at the end, so hold your questions till the end and we'll address them there. And you can also put them in the chat box. You see there's a chat there, and there's also a Q&A panel where you can put them. So there's a number of ways of interacting, and just make a note of anything to remind yourself in the chat box or the Q&A panel, and I'll come to it at the end of the presentation. I'll probably answer most of your questions during the course of the actual presentation. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Oh, someone else has joined. Great. Okay, so let's just start that. Right, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Great. The art of letting go. So that's what we're chatting about tonight. See a couple of other people have joined us. Let's just make sure. That's Huawei P10 Lite. Not sure who that is. Can you hear us? Doesn't seem like I can unmute them. Okay. Anyway, I'm just gonna push on. As I said, if you have any questions, just make a note of them in the Q&A panel or the chat box, and I'm sure I will get to them sometime in the presentation, or there will be time for questions and answers afterwards. So, welcome. This is about the art of letting go. As you know, it's about showing you how to let go and find your flow. And then just talk about tonight as this kind of part of the presentation, how to ride what I call the razor's edge between surrender and intention. And actually, Mike, you gave me that idea. You mentioned that Joe Dispenza talks about that, which is quite interesting. So how do you balance that? And that's really what the art of letting go is about. And get a 2020 vision, given that it's 2020, it's a nice song a year, it's the beginning of a new decade. How do you create a 2020 vision for your life and make this your best year ever? By developing the ability to let go of any stressful thought or emotion in minutes, using 7 secret stress-busting techniques that I'll talk about, and find authentic happiness, fulfilling flow, higher purpose, and what I call true success in life, without having to spend a fortune on motivational books, workshops, personal coaching, pills, or psychotherapy books. It's quite a mouthful, but you may all have been down this road, and I'm not knocking these kinds of books. I've read many of them, but eventually you have to find the answers within you. They don't exist in the book. The book is just a pointer to an inner state within you. So I started reading these kinds of books when I was 12 years old. I probably read tens, if not hundreds, by the time I'd reached 20, and they did set me on my path. But really what they taught me was that you're only worthy if you achieve something. You're only worthy through what you do and accomplish in this world. You're probably familiar with a number of these, with that kind of philosophy, The Secret, Power of Your Subconscious Mind, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, What the Mind of Man Can Conceive and Believe It Can Achieve. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is just going a little bit beyond that, taking it beyond just personal growth and you are what you do and you need to achieve in order to accomplish things. I'm just going to put guys on mute. Someone else is Huawei P10 Lite. Who are you?
Hi.
Yes, who is that?
Hi, it's Kamini.
Great, brilliant. So welcome. I hope you've been hearing all of this.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say hi. I'm just gonna mute you all because there's background interference coming through, and obviously that can be heard. So, as I said, if you've got any questions, stick them in the chat box. you can raise your hand, and there's also a Q&A panel. So I've actually been to one of this man's seminars in London. It was quite an experience. This is Tony Robbins, in case you didn't recognize. Quite an experience, but I didn't feel like I was really getting the truth. There was a lot of vibe, a lot of hype. It was a bit like a rock concert, actually, as you can see. Everyone was like, Tony, Tony, screaming. And I was like, am I at a rock concert, or is this really about self-empowerment? Because it didn't seem to be. So I've been there and done that. I've got the t-shirt in terms of doing these things. Personal coaching. This is another chap who has made a lot of money in the personal growth industry. He's saying, be obsessed. Well, I'd have to disagree, because obsession is the opposite of peace and happiness. And if you're obsessed with anything, it's likely to cause you a lot of negative feelings and suffering, ultimately. And actually, there's a chap by the name of Siddhartha Gautama, you might have heard of him. He lived about 2,500 years ago in India. He figured this out. And he said desire is the source of all suffering, which is one of the foundational principles of what has become Buddhism. Einstein echoed the sentiment. He said, nothing truly valuable comes from ambition. What is truly valuable comes from devotion and love of people, rather than obsession with achievements and things. Or people, for instance, because you can get obsessed by people too. You might have tried drugs. We've probably all at some stage taken some pills, but I think you'll know that you can't really rely on those for any kind of long-standing happiness. The most they can do is kind of numb you out and lessen your pain a little bit. And then psychotherapy. So you may have tried that or not, but there's many cases of people who've been in psychotherapy for years, 10 years. In fact, I knew a psychiatrist, and he said, well, what happens? He had a relationship with a therapist. And he said it was 2-3 years, and it was like a codependence developed. Eventually they had to break up. So it's not, most of these things aren't really about self-empowerment. They may be temporarily helpful, but what I'm going to share with you tonight takes you beyond all of that. So very briefly, what are the objectives and the structure of tonight's class? I'm going to guide you through a simple breath relaxation technique and a 2-step letting go process. So Vanessa, you said you hadn't done it today, so there's an opportunity to do it. It'll just clear some space, create some awareness, so you'll have a better session and be able to absorb more tonight. Then I'll introduce myself briefly. Some of you might not know anything about me, as well as A Course in Miracles. I'll talk about a little bit about my journey with the Course in Miracles. I'll share 3 life-changing principles and 7 secret stress-busting techniques. Will help you to live them consistently. Then I'm going to talk about the 1 key skill. So how do you synthesize all this into 1 key skill that you need to master to be authentically happy, find your flow, a sense of higher purpose, and experience what I call true success in life. Then we'll move on to the last bit of the presentation, explaining how the Art of Letting Go course can help you to let go and find authentic happiness, fulfilling flow, and true success that you want and deserve. I'll tell you how and when you can do the course, and then we'll be having a Q&A session. So that's the structure. It'll be an hour and a half, leave another 10 minutes at the end for questions. So first of all, as promised, this is how to let go of any stressful thought or emotion in minutes. Once you master it, you might not accomplish it straight away tonight, but it's certainly going to help you. So this is a little 2-step letting go process I'm going to invite you to do now. So as I said, just put everything else aside, put your phone on mute or silent, make sure you won't be disturbed, making yourself comfortable, sitting reasonably upright. So you always want to try and keep your back reasonably straight, sort of engage your core, or push yourself into the back of the chair and close your eyes, cup your hands on your lap, and just connect with your breath. So just breathing in and breathing out. Notice how the stomach rises as you breathe in, and it sucks back in gently as you exhale. And just connect with your breath. Let the breath take you moment by moment deeper into this lovely, peaceful, calm, relaxed state. Remind yourself there's really nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. but to be here now, in the moment for the next 10 minutes. And just watch your breath. Get into a nice rhythm with the breath. Make sure you can put your hand on your stomach. Make sure that you're pushing your stomach out as you breathe in. And you'll feel your chest rising, your stomach rising. So you're engaging the diaphragm. It's called diaphragmatic or belly breathing. And this engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which is effectively the relaxation response. So when you breathe like this, you automatically get more relaxed. It's inevitable. So it's a very, very powerful stress-busting technique. This is the first one I'm going to share with you, this little breath relaxation process. Even 2 or 3 breaths will help you. If you really want to relax, just sit quietly and just focus on your breath as you're doing now. Just watch your breath. It's called breath watching for the next few minutes. And just notice how maybe a sense of openness, some peace, expansion in your awareness starts to arise. Sinking a little bit deeper into this peace. Nowhere to go, nothing else to do. Just breathe, relax, and let me walk you through this little letting go process. So take a nice deep breath in and just bring to mind something that's been disturbing you. So that can be any negative thought or emotion about a situation, a person, just noticing. The thoughts, tuning into the emotions. So what does it feel like on a deeper level, on an energetic level? Just noticing the energy quality of it. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll notice it doesn't feel particularly nice. I feel a constriction in your throat, in your chest, in your stomach, contraction, maybe a tension, a clenching of your jaw. Just notice these subtle physiological signs of emotion. So emotion is extremely powerful. It creates all kinds of chemical reactions in our body. It makes us feel and then think and behave in certain ways. So now that you're aware of this negativity, unpleasantness, just make a decision that you want to let it go. So the first step of this letting go process is awareness, and the second step is the choice to let it go. Sounds awfully simple, but it's actually not that known. It's a simple 2-step letting go process to let go of anything. So once again, breathing in, nice deep inhale. Hold the breath briefly, tuning into these thoughts and these emotions, noticing how they feel. Now as you exhale out your mouth, have a sense of letting go of the thought. You can do that just by focusing all your attention on the breath, and of the emotion by just expelling it, just having a sense of releasing this dark, negative, toxic energy. So you can imagine a dark gray or mucky brown or black energy leaving your mouth as kind of black smoke, leaving every pore of your body. Breathing in again, nice deep inhale breath. Imagine you breathing beautiful golden or white light into your heart center, and then it's radiating out from that spot throughout your entire body. So it's infusing every cell and every muscle in your body with its beautiful healing properties. Take another sip of air, hold the breath briefly, have a sense of the light getting stronger, growing brighter, more intense. In the presence of the light, no darkness can continue. So as you exhale, have a sense again, of letting go of any negative energy that can be seen as a dark gray, mucky brown, black kind of smoke and energy leaving your body to be released into the nothingness that it always is and was. Last deep inhale breath. Breathing in to your heart center, into your chest, into your head. So it's a maximal inhale breath. Imagine you breathing the light in. The light's getting brighter and stronger. Holding the breath. And so there's only light in your mind, in your body. Every cell and every muscle of you is filled up with that light. And then exhale. And have a sense of extending that light outwards. Extending it out to the person or people involved in the situation. So you no longer see them as separate. In the light, you're one with them. And that is the healing of the separation that the situation has apparently caused. Notice how peaceful and happy this feels. So just to finish this letting go process, just for a minute, just watch your breath. Notice how the breath just happens. It's breathing you, it's happening to and through and for you. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do for the next minute. Just breathe, relax, and be still, be silent, be in the light. A sense of just letting go and surrendering completely to the light. So there is really nowhere where the light ends and you begin. You just merge into it. You become one with it. And the stillness and the light are really the same. So focusing on the silence underneath my voice, just noticing that silence, letting that activate the stillness and the light within you for the next minute of silence. Just be still, be in the light. And so very gently, on the count of 3, you're going to come back into your body and you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just being aware of your breath again. Maybe for a minute there you just drifted into the light and you weren't aware of anything. Remember now how nice that felt, and stay connected to that state for the rest of the evening through your breath. Now it's time to come back to an awareness of the body and the world. So 1, just noticing the weight of your body pressing into the chair and your feet pressing into the ground. 2, noticing your other body senses. You touching and feeling. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing. Maybe you'll notice that your perception has just shifted subtly compared to 10 minutes ago. You're clearer, you're lighter, you're more aware. So anchor that state in and stay in that nice, open, clear, aware state for the rest of the presentation and your evening. So it is said, and so it is done. And 3, opening your eyes. So just looking around, just very clear, calm, aware state. Always take 30 seconds to a minute to just anchor in the state and bring yourself back from a meditation like this. And notice how different maybe your perception is compared with 10 minutes ago. That helps you to start paying attention and becoming aware. And when you develop self-awareness, that's the start of all of this. So I'm just going to unmute you quickly. Make sure you're still with me. Everyone awake?
Yes.
Yes.
That was unanimous. Great. So how was that? You enjoy that?
Great.
That was relaxing.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah. So that's a little taste of some of the processes that we do in the Art of Letting Go course. It's a very simple little process, but simple doesn't mean it's not powerful. Hopefully you've all I've actually given you a copy of a 2-step letting go process when you signed up. So you've got that, and I'm going to give you another gift tonight. So let me just mute you all again because I don't want any interference. All right, so if you stay until the end of this presentation, it's the very end, including the question and answer session, I will give you a 10-step letting go process, which takes the letting go process to its ultimate. It's based on my teachings in A Course in Miracles, synthesized into a simple 10-step process. There's an instruction sheet. I'm also going to give you a half-hour guided meditation session, which is recorded. It's my voice, but it's got all kinds of binaural beats and fancy things in the background. I'll talk about that meditation a bit later. I normally charge £5 for that, or 100 rand. So that's my gift to you if you stay till the end. So don't disappear on me. Okay, so I promised to introduce myself. So who am I? I won't talk about ultimate truth of who I am. That's ultimately what we're all after, but it's very difficult to even talk about that. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a brief background on me and who I am and how I come to be doing this and doing this work and presenting this tonight. So that's me way back in my late teens, early 20s. As you can see, I'm probably dressed in a sports shirt. I was a pretty good squash player in my time. And I decided at the age of about 13 that I wanted to be the world champion. This was my big, hairy, impossible goal. Decided I was going to apply some of these teachings I'd read in books like Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich to my life. I didn't think there was any point in aiming to be less than number one, because that's what they're all saying. And so that's what I visualized, that's what I affirmed, that's what I dedicated my life to. And it certainly took me in some interesting directions. Ultimately, I didn't become the world champion, and that was a major letting go process. It took me in the right direction. I went to university, which I probably should have done if I was serious about becoming a world champion, but that's kind of what you do when your father's a headmaster and he's a stickler for education. So I did that, and then I decided, well, I have to let go of this path I'd studied for 4 years, doing accountancy and business science and finance and those kinds of subjects, which a lot of it didn't actually resonate particularly well with me, and I didn't feel like I really wanted to be an accountant. So I let it all go. That was probably my first letting go experience. And I went to play professional squash. I went overseas after a couple of years, went to the UK. There I started to learn to breathe through my nose while I was exercising, which really helped me. And I also learned to meditate, learn transcendental meditation, all to try and help me be a better squash player. But what I started realizing after a year or two of doing this was that it was changing me, it was transforming the way I thought and the way I saw things. And so I started to open up spiritually, because that's what meditation and breathwork does. And I started getting pretty curious about what life was really all about, and was it really just all about becoming the number one squash player in the world, or was there something more? And kind of what facilitated this process was I had to let go of this major goal, which I had for about 15 years of my life, in my late 20s. I had to come back to South Africa from the UK because of visa issues, and I had to face up to I remember losing a match to a particularly, he wasn't a great player, he was an okay player. I used to play him in practice and I normally beat him, but that day I lost to him. I just remember sitting side of the court after and going, this isn't going to happen. You've got to get real. It's not going to happen, and you've got to let it go. And so I did, and actually I found a strange sense of peace arising when I did that. There was more peace and more freedom than I experienced for many years. I didn't have this driving, overriding desire and then fear that I wouldn't achieve this desire. And I just carried on playing the game because I enjoyed squash, but I just played it to enjoy it, and actually played better, funny enough, in the years when I wasn't professional, probably than when I was, even though I wasn't working as hard and stressing and straining and striving so much for it. So that was another major letting go kind of process that I had in my late 20s. And I think that combined with the meditation, the breath work, and then I started reading books like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now and Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, pretty much whatever I could lay my hands on. So these books were speaking to me in a different way, at a deeper level than I was able to I wasn't able to get that same kind of thing from these personal growth books, which really said, it's all about what you achieve and what you do. This is pointing me into a deeper state of being, just being okay as you are. So I pursued that. I remember a little bit of conflict between the two, and especially when Eckhart Tolle said, well, you have to let go of all your goals, don't visualize, and I've been doing that for years and years. But it made sense to me. And so I started moving more and more in that spiritual direction. After a few years, I decided that I wanted to teach some of the things I'd learned. So I started running workshops and seminars and retreats. Mike's been to some of them. Started teaching. 2006, I came across A Course in Miracles, and I started teaching that a year or two later, incorporating it into retreats that I did. Mike's actually been on one of these, a dolphin retreat in Mozambique, and had a lot of fun. Great fun, and learned a lot and helped some people. Then I decided in 2013 that I needed a fresh challenge. I've kind of been doing this for the best part of a decade, and I got an opportunity to go to London. There I am in Oxford Street with my now wife. She wasn't then, but I met her in the UK, and so that's catapulted me into a whole other major letting go process. I moved over to the UK. I left behind my life here, my family, the business I'd built up, and got married, had a son, changed careers, started going into the finance industry. That was sort of what had brought me to London. And I guess all of that stimulated or triggered some kind of midlife crisis. I really started to question everything. I was doing A Course in Miracles and all this spiritual practice as well, and it just catapulted me into a place where I was like, I really don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what life is about. You have thoughts of ending it all. Is it really worth it? So I've been through that. It's called the dark nights of the soul. Maybe you've gone through it, or you're going through it, or somebody's gone through it. It's not pleasant, but it's when you grow the most. And what saw me through really was my spiritual practice, the meditation practice that I've been doing for 15 years, and been studying A Course in Miracles for about 10 years at that point. And all those spiritual principles and practices really helped me through and probably saved my life, if I'm honest. So I've put them to the test, and they really do work. Although they might stimulate a spiritual healing crisis, they will also see you through it. I started running breathwork and meditation workshops in the UK and in North Dorset, a little town called Shaftesbury, where we were living. So that's me running a workshop there in a yoga studio. That's me in corporate mode. So I started doing card payments, selling card payment solutions in the UK, and started selling some finance to small businesses and a little bit of coffee, believe it or not. And in June of 2018, I remember just going, I'm really not particularly happy. I'm not particularly focused because I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not really doing what I want to do, which is teach meditation and breathwork and A Course in Miracles. And I sat down with my wife, who fortunately is quite a wise lady, and she's also studied A Course in Miracles. And we decided that we needed a different direction. We sat down, and in an hour or so, we formulated the essence of what has now become the art of letting go. At that stage, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but decided I was going to do something online to really teach what I'd learned in my journey and get it out to anyone in the world who's interested, and they could do the whole process online. So I was born the Art of Letting Go course, which I piloted in 2018, and the first kind of trial course. Learned a lot from that. I went away last year and put together a better version of the course. Put together all the marketing for it, something which you've probably seen, and this brought me around the second course in September and October last year, and now we're about to run the third one. So it's been quite a journey, but it just shows you the power of just sitting down and sometimes reflecting, and then setting an intention that's guided. And that's kind of part of this idea of riding the razor's edge between surrender and intention. It's to let go first of what I was currently doing, my own ideas, and sort of open to another way. And then some guidance came, but then I was willing to follow that, and that became my new intention. So that's, in a nutshell, there's more to it than that, but that's in a nutshell how you ride this razor's edge and manage this paradox between surrender and intention. And there I am, that was about 3 weeks ago in Shloty, the KZN North Coast, with my family. There's my little boy, and we're playing rugby. So those are some of the faces and experiences that I've had to bring me here. Who knows what the future holds? So I left a little open space there, blank canvas for what's to unfold. So I mentioned a little bit about A Course in Miracles. Just going to open this up again. Who's familiar? I know Mike is familiar. Vanessa's familiar. Nafisa, you did a session on Sunday, so that was your first introduction to it, was it?
Yes, we did the first page.
Yeah, we just did the first page that took out. So you've sort of heard of it, but not that familiar with it. And
No.
Camino, are you there?
Yeah, Kamini. Yes.
Camino,
Yeah.
probably. Have you heard of A Course in Miracles?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I actually came across this yesterday or today in Facebook from Debbie Fox.
Okay. So Debbie posted it. Great. Yeah, so Debbie's done the Art of Letting Go course, and it's really helped her. I'll share some of her testimonials. So that's why she's putting it out there, because she knows that it's going to help a lot of people. Okay, so let's move swiftly on. I'm just going to mute you, and just going to talk a little bit about the course so that you understand what it is and where it comes from. So for some of you, this might be just a recap, but for others, they won't really have heard much about it. So what is A Course in Miracles? Well, it's a book, as you saw, consisting of a text of about 670 pages that explains in detail the principles, the philosophy on which the course is based. It's a 488-page workbook made up of 365 daily lessons, designed to systematically train your mind how to let go of its negativity, and that will allow you to live in a miraculous state of mind. That's why it's called A Course in Miracles. That I call flow, by the way. It's really the same thing. I think flow is just maybe a more understandable term for people, particularly if they're not religious or Christian. And then there's a manual for teachers, which is 92 pages. It's got additional guidance and clarification of terms in a Q&A format. So in the Art of Letting Go course, we work with text and the workbook, which is more than enough. I'll talk about exactly what we cover in those, but it's really an introduction to both of those aspects. It's a very, very profound teaching. As I said, it's changed my life. It's given me access to a level of truth that none of the other books did. I was searching, and finally I came across the course, And something in me said, you found it. This is it. You don't need to go anywhere else. You just need to learn this. And I'm still learning 13 years later. I still study it every day, teach it every day, use it in my meditations, and I never tire of it. So it has what's called these deeper or higher levels of significance. As you work with it, you find more and more unfolding. So you never get tired of it, because it's really taking you into a deeper part of your mind as you work with it. And that's why it's so profound. So it's, how did it come? It was transmitted by Jesus to an American professor of psychology named Helen Schuckman between 1965 and 1972. So I kind of say that pretty casually. Let me tell you a little bit about the story of how it came. So Helen Schuckman and her boss, a guy called Bill Thetford, were professors of psychology at the College of Physicians and Surgeons that is part of Columbia University in New York City, one of the biggest, most complex living environments that humanity has ever created. So interesting that the course came there. These things come where they need it. And in about April 1965, they were driving to a disciplinary hearing. Again, there was a lot of conflict in the academic environment, a lot of fighting, and Helen and Bill themselves had a pretty strained relationship. And on this journey, Bill sort of threw up his hands in the air and he said, there must be a better way than this. Surely we can find a better way than all of this fighting and conflict and backstabbing that's going on. And to her surprise, Helen agreed with him. She said, yes, I agree, and I'll help you to find it. So in that moment, the course calls a holy instant. There was a meeting of minds. These two people joined in a common purpose to find a better way. And very soon afterwards, this voice, which identified himself as Jesus pretty quickly, started speaking to Helen. He started giving her some pretty helpful guidance. She was quite a highly strung person. She was an atheist, Jewish by birth, but atheist by nature. She was, both of them by their own admission, were quite concerned with worldly achievements and other people's perceptions of them. They were hardly what could be called spiritual. But nevertheless, she started hearing this voice, which gave her this... gave us some very helpful ideas, and it also she started having these quite vivid dreams, which she would write down and she'd tell Bill about them. And then in October of that year, this voice started speaking to her persistently one night, said, this is A Course in Miracles, please take notes. And it wouldn't shut up. So she phoned Bill and she said, well, what do you think I should do? He said, well, Helen, why don't you just do what it says, take notes, write it down, and bring in your notes tomorrow and we'll have a look at them. So that's what she did. And he looked at them and he said, no disrespect, Helen, but this isn't from you. This is clearly coming from a higher intelligence. And she didn't disagree with him. She said, yeah, I agree. It freaks me out. I don't really understand it. But this is what I'm getting. It's kind of like a voice speaking to me. It's dictating, and I just have to write it down. And this is how the Course in Miracles came, and how it was given over a period of 7 years. In 1965 and 1972 to her, came sporadically, not all at once. She would write it down, she would take in her notes to Bill, and he would, she would dictate them to him, and he would type them up, and that's how it became a manuscript, which then eventually got published in 1976 as A Course in Miracles. Fortunately, it was published without a copyright notice, which means that it is without copyright. You can access the course, all the text freely on the internet. So you don't actually have to buy the course to study it. It's all available. And in the Art of Letting Go course, I give you those links, which is quite nice, and I think quite fitting, really, because I don't think it was meant ever to be something that was copyrighted to one person or organization. It's also a systematic mind training course to teach you a radically different way of thinking about and perceiving everything from a non-dual perspective. It's designed to teach you how to forgive or let go of every false belief, thought and emotion that causes you and others to suffer, and that the course calls the ego. And it's also a spiritual path. It will allow you to live happily, peacefully, and lovingly in what I call a state of flow. All of that together is flow, and ultimately attain enlightenment, which is freedom from time and space and freedom from the human condition. So it's set, the bar is set at the very highest level with the course, but it is actually amazingly practical, because it helps you to live much more functionally and practically and effectively on a day-by-day basis, while you're living out your daily life here, and keeping you in a state of peace. And love and joy and all of that is what flow is really about. So there's some well-known students of the course. You might have heard of Marianne Williamson. She's written a book called The Return to Love based on it. She's actually running for the Democratic candidacy in this year's presidential election in the US. So we'll see what happens there. It'd be great if she does actually win it. There's Nelson Mandela. And I'm not sure if he actually studied the course, but he was certainly influenced by its ideas via Marianne Williamson. When he came out of prison, his first speech, he quoted a well-known phrase, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate, our deepest fear is we're powerful beyond measure." You might know it, but it's a very well-known quote. And he said that in his speech, and that was directly from Marianne Williamson's book called The Return to Love that was based on A Course in Miracles. There's Oprah Winfrey. So she's been influenced by Marianne Williamson and other teachers of the course. She studies it herself, as far as I'm aware. And Deepak Chopra. So some pretty spiritual heavyweights. Wayne Dyer, in his sort of last decade of life, started very much going the spiritual route and started studying a course and teaching a course. Eckhart Tolle is now actively teaching the course on Facebook, on YouTube and his videos. You can see he's referring to the course and teaching passages from it. Michael Beckwith, also a well-known spiritual teacher, and many others, many hundreds, thousands of students and teachers in the course worldwide. There's probably there's about 3 million copies that have been sold, but I would suspect that about 90 to 95% of those haven't actually been read properly, and that I'll talk about later is how you actually can get the most out of the course. So why are you here today? Just pause a moment and think. It's a rhetorical question. Just ask yourself. So why did you take your time to show up tonight? And it must be because you're looking for something. You wouldn't have done that. If everything was perfect and you're peaceful and happy and contented, there'd be no need to look for anything. And that might, you think, be better health, more wealth, better relationships, a better quality of life, relief from stress, anxiety, depression, and any other negative condition you care to name. But actually, what are you really looking for? Okay, just pause a moment, think about that. What's beyond all of these things? You think about it carefully. And in a word, it must be happiness. So we think that these things are going to bring us a better state, bring us a state where we're feeling better about ourselves, more okay, happier, more peaceful. So in a word, that state of being okay is called happiness. You could call it peace, you could call it love, you could call it joy. It doesn't really matter. It's just a pointer to a state of mind and of being. So let's consider why you haven't found lasting happiness yet. So you're obviously still seeking for it. And it must be because you're looking in the wrong place. Now, don't take this personally, because it's you and pretty much every other human being. Right? We're conditioned from a very young age to think that we'll be happy when we have better or more stuff outside of us. When we do something or achieve something outside of us, that's going to make us happier. So that might be health and fitness, continually bombarded by these images of fit, healthy, young bodies, which most people don't live up to, especially as they're getting older. So we feel inadequate if we compare ourselves to these images that the media pushes at us. Money, obviously, in the things that money can buy, fancy cars, nice homes, and the lifestyle they bring. Special relationships. So we're all looking for Mr. and Mrs. Right. It's one of the primary illusions of the world. Of course, what goes with that is sex, and we know that that's used to sell many, many different products and services that have absolutely nothing to do with sex. So that's a big one. Travel and holidays. Now, I've just been on a holiday and it was fantastic, but they come and go. Holidays don't last. If you make it the source of your happiness, then what happens when you're not on holiday? You're not going to be very happy, and then you're going to be looking ahead to your next holiday, to your next travel experience. And so you're continuously searching, and that's where this thing called the ego wants to keep you, is looking and seeking, but never really finding the answer. Looking in pleasurable experiences, however you define those. So that might be fine wine, dining, Mr. or Mrs. Right included in that. Anything that you define as pleasurable in this world. Now, I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with these things. you can enjoy them. But if you make them the source of your happiness and you put a whole lot of expectation that these things are going to be things that are going to make you ultimately happy, you are going to be disappointed. Because, in case you hadn't realized that yet, none of these things last. They come and they go. They are temporary, ephemeral experiences. So how can you rely on them for permanent happiness? It's clear that you can't. And why is that? Because happiness is not a goal in itself. And this is a great quote that I found, 1885. So when people call this stuff New Age, it's been around a very, very long time, thousands of years, in fact. But 130 odd years, 140 odd years ago, people were still talking about happiness and how you find happiness. So happiness is a butterfly, which when pursued is always just beyond your grasp, but which, if you will sit down quietly, may come and alight on you. So it's one of those things, if you're looking for it and you're seeking it, you're probably never going to find it. It's always going to be elusive. But if you just sit down quietly, as we just did at the beginning of the session, you might have found a sense of something arising that you could call happiness, a sense of peace, contentment, being in the moment, just being okay as you were right then. It alights upon you if you still, just like a butterfly. So that's the principle. That's where you can start finding authentic happiness. As Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, he's the world's leading expert on the concept of flow, which is not really a new idea, but he just coined the term flow, and he's written a number of books on it. He said, to know oneself is the first step toward making flow a part of one's entire life. Just as there is no free lunch in the material economy, nothing comes free in the psychic one either. If one is not willing to invest psychic energy in the internal reality of consciousness and instead squanders it in chasing external rewards, one loses mastery of one's life and ends up becoming a puppet of circumstances. So it's saying very, very clearly that this idea of flow is not about chasing external rewards. You're not going to find it by chasing things outside of you. It's investing in the internal reality of consciousness, this sense of self within you that is going to bring about this experience of flow. If you go the other way, you squander your consciousness and you lose mastery of your life. You end up becoming a puppet or a victim of circumstances, which is where a lot of people are. That's where the world wants to keep you, continuously at the mercy of these circumstances and changing and shifting, and never really able to find any kind of authentic happiness or peace, because your peace and your happiness are always being disturbed by these changing circumstances that you're so attached to. So anyone know what that means? Temet nosce, it's Latin, it means know thyself. So that's the injunction, and this is a very ancient injunction. This goes, again, back thousands of years to the great spiritual masters, Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu. They all said the same thing, really. Know yourself. That's where your source of happiness comes from. And that's a scene from the movie The Matrix. Neo, who's kind of the potential avatar, who's potential enlightened one, goes to the oracle, and she's given him not what he thought he was going to get, and then says, what does that mean? And then he says, no, and she says, know thyself. So that's what the whole journey is about, is knowing yourself. But what's the key to that? It's the key to knowing yourself and the key to the happiness that it brings. And in a word, it could be called self-discipline. So one thing, as Charles Glassman so accurately said, self-discipline, because it takes discipline to know yourself in a world that's dedicated to falsehood and illusion, to teaching you that actually you're going to find yourself and you're going to find happiness somewhere outside of you. And there are multi-billion-dollar industries dedicated to that. So these are the 7 spiritual secrets that I promised to share with you, so pay attention. I call them key spiritual practices, or KSPs. They include conscious breathing. You just had a taste of that in the first exercise we did, the letting go process. Took you through some breathing to start with. Daily meditation. Forgiveness, as the Course in Miracles calls it, or letting go. I prefer to call it letting go because I think it's more descriptive. It's more understandable to people as to what you're actually doing. You're letting go of your thoughts, and you're letting go of your negative emotions and the energy surrounding them. That's really what forgiveness is about. And that may mean that you also let go of anger and hatred towards others. That's part of it. But you're letting go of the emotion, which ultimately is only really held towards yourself. as we learn, as we practice these techniques. Discussion sessions, so that's using a platform like this online and actually discussing these ideas and principles, doing guided meditation sessions, so that's where the daily meditation comes in, reading and listening to spiritual texts, so particularly A Course in Miracles, because I believe it's the most profound teaching on the planet, and you don't need to really look anywhere else for truth. And there's an end-of-day reflection that I always recommend doing, just to reflect on the day, learn what you can from the day, and then finally, just a pre-bed relaxation to put yourself in the right frame of mind, to clear your mind, so that you set yourself up for a really good night's sleep and a good day the next day, rather than going to bed with your head full of things and then often you can't sleep. So those are my 7 top key spiritual practices, and I'll talk a bit more about them later and how you can actually apply them in your life. And now I also promised to talk about the 3 secrets. So secret number 1 is the key to authentic happiness. Talked a little bit about that. And so really it's about how do you let go, how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions, no matter how challenging the situation, provoking them seems to be. Secret number 2 is the key to fulfilling flow. So how do you remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately? So taking your happiness and actually living it on a daily basis, which you have to do in this world, unless you're going to take yourself off into an ashram or a monastery, you're going to have to act. And so how do you act in a poised way where you're enjoying the moment? And if you bundle that all together, that's the key to true success. When you're happy and you're in flow in every aspect of your life, it's not just about one aspect, it's about a holistic perspective on your life and living this in every aspect. To live an extraordinary, ordinary life. So we're not asking you to do anything extraordinary and go and become a world beater or start a multi-billion-dollar company. It's just being happy and in flow in whatever you choose to do. And that is pretty extraordinary, because there are not many people who actually do that on a consistent basis. And that, all of that gives you and others, it's not just about yourself, it's also about spreading this, spreading the light through who you are, miraculous experiences and results regularly. And these miraculous experiences and results are what give us the results that other people will call success. But actually your success was established up front in your happiness and your flow. So let's unpack these secrets a little bit. First one, key to authentic happiness. The first principle to consider in this is that happiness or unhappiness are always experienced in your own mind. Okay? So that is a truth. You could dispute that. You could say it's something else, but even if something else is triggering your happiness or unhappiness, they are being experienced by you, no one else. So they're experienced in your own mind. Second principle is that only your own negative thoughts and feelings can make you unhappy. And that may not be true. You could dispute that, but it's actually just your negative perceptions and your feelings about anything that make you unhappy. It's not the thing itself. So again, the external thing, that the trigger, whatever it is not to blame. It's how you perceive it. So because those two things are true, learning how to let go of your negative thoughts and emotions must be the key to your happiness. So if you learn nothing else from tonight, just remember this, right? It's absolutely critical, key life skill. Learning how to let go is absolutely key to your happiness. A little bit of a case study on that. So this is a chap by the name of Phil, who was in his 80s when he did the first Art of Letting Go course in 2018. And he'd been studying the Course in Miracles, that's what he means by the course, for 27 years. So I was under a little bit of pressure, because I'd been studying it for just under half of that time. And he was willing to learn from me, which was a great honor. And he said that he'd learned more about the course in the last 6 weeks of the Art of Letting Go course in the last 27 years of studying it. And that learning how to forgive truly was one of the key benefits that he got. And specifically had a major kind of forgiveness breakthrough or catharsis. The last day of the course, after we did something called holotropic breathing, which I'll talk about a bit later as well in more detail, but it's a breathing process that's designed to be a catalyst for healing. So we did that the night before, and then he listened to it again, listened to the music track, which I sent him in the next morning. And then he sent me this at 10:45 that morning, saying, this is what had just happened to him. So he did his lesson for the days, his workbook lesson in the course, decided to play this track again. And then, as he explains, this situation arose with his parents, particularly his mother. So he had a very loving home and loving parents. They were very decent people, and yet somehow they weren't good enough for him. He had this idea that his mother should be doing something else, even though she was brilliant, but he never acknowledged her. She got straight A's at school. She got a bursary to go to university. She taught high school English. Later in life, she did book reviews. She had a weekly column in the main newspaper in the town up in what was then Rhodesia, where they lived. But he said, I wanted it to be something else. God only knows what. And he said during this replay, listening to the music, he did a bit of the breathing as well. He started realizing how unfair and ungrateful he'd been, never acknowledging just how fortunate his life was. And it was then that I had a catharsis. I broke down, sobbed my heart out in that long moment. I was able to forgive myself and also to ask my parents for their forgiveness in carrying this baggage around all my life at a huge cost, his words. So after 6 weeks, he's dropped something that's been with him for probably 70 years of his life. It wasn't just the holotropic breathing. It was a whole process, I think, that brought that about. And that's really what the process is designed to do, is to be a catalyst for deep healing and transformation. So that was a great example of that. Secret number 2. So we talked about the what's key to authentic happiness. Now the key to fulfilling flow, which flows from that. So learning how to remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. So I want to talk a little bit more about flow. I've touched on it already, but here are a couple of definitions. This is again by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who's the world's leading authority on it. And this is the best quote or best definition I could find from him. Is when we act freely for the sake of the action itself, rather than for ulterior motives. We learn to become more than what we were. So a couple of key points there. It's about acting freely without the ulterior motives that the ego always has, what do I want to get out of this? That we get into flow and we learn in that process to become more than what we were. So it's about flow and self-knowledge, the self-realization, and knowing who you really are go hand in hand. And then this is also a brilliant quote by Eckhart Tolle I mentioned before. This is from his other book called A New Earth. You might have read it. Artistic creation, sports, dance, teaching, counseling, mastery in any field of endeavor implies that the thinking mind is either no longer involved at all, or at least is taking second place. Power and intelligence greater than you, and yet one with you in essence takes over. There is no decision-making process anymore. Spontaneous right action happens, and you are not doing it. Mastery of life is the opposite of control. You become aligned with the greater consciousness. It acts, speaks, and does the works. So, great quote. And when we look at people like Roger Federer, sport is a great place where you can actually witness this. But it can happen in any field of endeavor, in the arts, in business, in life. But you actually see the results very, very clearly in sports. And I was a professional squash player, as you know, so it's kind of close to my heart. You watch these guys performing at a very high level and doing what they do with no apparent fear. The only way they're going to do that is if they're in a state of flow and they just kind of let go of the thinking mind and they've surrendered to this higher power that kind of does it through them. And we enjoy watching them because we enjoy seeing that happen. We enjoy seeing a human being performing at their ultimate potential, which is why they earn the money they do, because they're able to get into a state of flow and do that consistently. So I want to share a little experience that I had with flow. So as you know, I was a professional squash player. Very early in my career, about 6 months into my professional career, I remember putting a lot of pressure on myself. I wasn't playing particularly well because of it. Had a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety whenever I went on court. Because in my mind, I'd set up this crazy idea that I should be beating anyone who wasn't professional. And now the game is not played that way. It's not played on paper. It's not your status in your own mind that counts. It's only what happens on the court. But I'd set up this crazy idea, and I put all this pressure on myself. And I remember losing to an older chap who was playing at my club in the club championships. He was in his late 30s. I was in my early 20s. This was a disgrace in my view, but I'd lost him. And then I was playing him a couple of months later in a league match. So there were two clubs in the same league, first league in Johannesburg, and we were playing each other. I remember that day just getting really stressed out, a lot of anxiety, because I was on display. It was like my whole ego was on display, and this choice I'd made to go the route I had was all riding on this, and I didn't want to fail. I was scared I would fail because I'd lost him before, and all these emotions were stirring up, and I couldn't relax. So towards the end of the day, my sister said to me, "Look, let's just go for a walk. Come with me for a walk." And I did that, and it was the best thing I could have done. She just said, "Hey, just relax. Look, we're having a nice time. We're walking. Just go and play tonight, and just relax and enjoy it. There's nothing. Remember why you started playing the game." And somehow I managed to do that. Don't ask me how, but I managed to just blank my mind. I didn't think about anything. I didn't plan. I didn't strategize. And when I went onto the court, it was late in the evening, about 9 o'clock in the evening. I was completely empty. I'd emptied my cup, so to speak. And the most amazing thing happened. I really experienced exactly what Eckhart Tolle talks about in this quote. There was this power and intelligence just coming through me. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't having to consciously make decisions. Spontaneous right action happened. I played incredibly. I don't think I've ever played a game like that. I could do no wrong. I made one or two mistakes, but it didn't bother me at all. And I remember just watching this process unfolding and going, "Wow, this is amazing. I'm not really doing this. It's happening, and I'm the observer of it." So I really got an experiential taste of this flow on a very deep level, which changed my career. It changed my life. I might not be doing what I'm doing today if I hadn't had that experience, which is what flow does. It connects you with a deeper part of yourself. So I remember coming off the court having won. I won the match pretty easily. That wasn't really the point. It wasn't the result. It was more about the feeling. I was elated. I remember just going, "Wow, this is amazing. I can actually break through fear, and I can do this. I can play this very creative, enjoyable squash, and I can play a lot better than I can do if I'm trying to control all this and manage it." And I felt liberated, and I'd broken through a barrier of fear, and I never went back to the same kind of constriction. It changed my whole career. I played much better for months after that. Just was in flow, and I kept an element of that. I think in every match I played for the rest of my career. So it was profoundly transformational, and it just showed me that what these theory can actually be experienced. You can actually experience these things, and so I became very interested in teaching it. And that's why I teach the idea of flow, as a big part of the art of letting go. So, and this is another case study. A chap by the name of Vim had an experience during the first Art of Letting Go course, which he documented in the Facebook group. Very briefly, I'll summarize it. He was playing his normal social match of tennis against someone who was slightly better than him, and he wanted to win. And because he wanted to win, he got frustrated because he wasn't playing particularly well. He got irritated with himself. The irritation escalated and snowballed. He tried to force points. He made worse mistakes. Everything got worse. If ever you've played sport, particularly individual sport, and everything's going pear-shaped, you'll know this isn't a nice place to be because there's nowhere to hide. So the whole match became a very unpleasant experience for him. And so looking back, I should have realized what was going on. I should have taken a few deep breaths, but the ego was in full flight, and he couldn't stop it. And he was very, very much caught up in the heat of the moment, and he lost his temper, as he said. So some self-reflection there, some awareness of where it went wrong. That's often how it starts. It's how we learn our lessons, is we experience what doesn't work. And that's a good thing because it opens us up to a better way. So we then discussed this in one of the discussion sessions, and I shared the experience I just shared with him, with you, about my experience on the squash court of flow, and taught him some of the breathing techniques. And to his credit, he did it all. He applied it. He kept that in mind. He centered himself. He breathed, and he experienced peace. He played a lot better. And although he just aimed to take a set off the guy, he actually beat him in 3 sets, which he'd never done before. So he got a great result. But he realized it wasn't really about the competition and the winning. It was really about the experience. He was in flow. He really enjoyed it, and he was at peace. And he's a chaplain in the army, so he uses this religious terminology. I experienced God's pleasure in me that day, which is profound. He also learned something very powerful about himself, that he can choose to let go of anger, which doesn't work, and be at peace instead. So in that experience, you see all the elements of flow that Eckhart Tolle talked about, as well as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He found a state of flow, and he learned in that state. He learned more about himself. So it revealed another aspect of himself. So that's flow, and then all of that combined, so happiness and flow is the key to true success. So learning how to be happy and in flow in every aspect of your life, and live an extraordinary, ordinary life that gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. So it starts with happiness and flow. It must be in every aspect of your life. You might know some people who can get into flow in one aspect. Sometimes they might be very good at sport, and they might be a professional sportsman, but the rest of their lives can be a disaster. So that's not really true success. And it's about living this extraordinary, ordinary life. So it doesn't matter what you do on the level of form, what you achieve. It could be very ordinary by other people's perception. So an ordinary game of tennis, but for them, that was extraordinary. That was one of the most extraordinary experiences of his life, because it's an inner experience. It's not about what you achieve externally. And that will give you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. And so those miraculous experiences are flow experiences when you're in flow. And when you're in flow, you tend to get better results more regularly and achieve better things on the level of form. So a case in point, Robin, who did the first Start to Let It Go course, this was her summary of her experience at the end of the 6 weeks. She said, I have more peace, less anxiety, I sleep better, I don't take painkillers anymore for stress headaches, because she had bad neck pain and back pain. She had better relationships with her children, and she's not as frightened as worried. And these benefits have continued. So this is not a once-off. It lasts for a week or a month. This was a video that she kindly recorded for me in about June of last year. So about 8 months after she did the course. And I'll let you tell her her experience of the course and what her life has become. And she continues to live that way. So just listen to Robin for a couple of minutes.
Hi, my name's Robin. I did the course last year with Jonathan. I'd never heard of the course before. It was something entirely different to me, although I've been practicing meditation. I've been going to Breathworks for some time, trying genuinely to find peace. I'm a mum, I work, I've got a normal busy life. I've been plagued with headaches, I've been plagued with sore necks and the normal problems that people have. I found that through the course and joining the online community, I found a group of like-minded people all exploring the course. The course is fundamentally different. At first I thought it was all about religion, which it wasn't. Although it is about God, and I do believe in God, and it made a great deal of sense in my life that the only thing is really that we concentrate on is God. It's about finding love. It's about being kinder to people. I still listen to the teachings every day. I've found that by listening to the teachings and following the book and reading, I have become more compassionate. I've become a nicer person. I feel less guilty. I feel that the world is a a different place. I don't feel that the world is always a good place. It's not. But I believe that it impacts me less. I used to be traumatized by the world. I used to lie awake and worry about things that are happening and my children and my life, and worry about my past and worry about the future. I've found that I've achieved a sense of peace. And if nothing else, I'm really grateful to Jono and the people I met on the course, because that sense of peace has helped me to heal many parts of my life. I no longer have headaches. I used to suffer with headaches. I used to have terrible neck pain that I was on painkillers on all the time. And honestly, those things have gone away. I don't take painkillers for my neck, and I don't have headaches anymore. My relationships with my children are much better, and my relationship with myself is a lot better. So in all, it's taken a lot of the jagged edges off of life, and it's just made life more bearable. And if you think about it, we're probably going to be here for a long time. So if it continues to get more and more bearable, and as I say, each day I learn a new lesson, and it does make life a little bit different and a little bit better, and I see things a little bit more clearly. And that to me has been the biggest gift of the course.
So that's Robin. You heard it from the horse's mouth. So where to from here? I've shared some ideas with you, some information. Hopefully you've learned something. But learning new information is necessary, but it's not a sufficient step for a true transformation of mind to happen. So there are two ways to true transformation. We'll talk about briefly. The first one is through intense pain and suffering. You're forced to go within and break through to a new level of understanding and wisdom. And that's called the way of the cross. It's a hard way. Example of someone who did that is Eckhart Tolle. You might have read his book, The Power of Now, in it he shares in the preface that he was suicidally depressed in his late 20s. One night he was lying awake in bed and he said, I can't stand myself anymore. You know, this thought over and over. And then he sort of thought, well, maybe there's a true me, there's an I that's true and real, and there's a self that I can't stand. And that realization split his mind, and he went into some kind of vortex. He passed out, and he woke up the next morning, and he was like, wow, I see everything completely differently. I'm much more peaceful. I've let go of this heavy ego and all this darkness. And you know, the rest is history. He's become one of the world's leading spiritual teachers as a result of that sudden transformation. But that's a pretty rare experience. Generally, most people tend to transform the second way, which is through conscious, disciplined practice of spiritual ideas and techniques. You systematically progress and grow in understanding and wisdom, and I call that the way of mastery. It's also a very, very old way. It's been going for thousands of years. There have been spiritual practice and techniques being practiced and developed for thousands of years that started really in the East. Yoga is probably the first kind of comprehensive spiritual path and set of practices, and there have been many others in many different forms and adaptations. And so I've just drawn from some of that ancient spiritual wisdom and teaching and incorporated it into the Art of Letting Go course. So the course includes some of these principles of transformation through mastery. Firstly, understanding and realization through personal experience. It must be your personal experience. It's not a belief that anyone else can foist upon you, which is how religion works, a dogma. You know, you've got to believe this because we say it's true. It's about understanding through your own personal experience. It requires your active willingness and your disciplined effort. Nothing's going to happen unless you put active willingness and effort into it. Doing key spiritual practices like forgiveness, or letting go, as I prefer to call it, breathwork and meditation regularly is absolutely essential. It can be greatly facilitated by another person or a group who help raise the initiate's consciousness by transmitting positive energy and holding him or her accountable. So that group energy works really well in the Art of Letting Go course. We do group sessions online where you connect with a group. You have a sense that you're not alone. And also I'm transmitting positive energy. You may have had some of that tonight. You may be feeling more positive, happier, more peaceful than you were an hour and a half ago before the session. Hopefully you are. So you'll have had a little taste of that transmission of energy. And it's also about accountability. So just making you feel more accountable because you're in this process and you've signed up to something and you're in a process with people and you're getting communication about it. You're much more likely to actually do it and stick to the process than if you do it on your own. And also immerse yourself in it. So the idea of immersion is that you really put in quite a bit of time over a short period of time. And you immerse yourself in these key spiritual practices and in the positive field of consciousness that is created. And that field of consciousness is not local. You don't have to be in the same room as someone. This can be transmitted online. Maybe you've experienced some of that today. We're in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and yet that field of consciousness exists between us. So those are the principles on which the Art of Letting Go course is based. I'll give you a quick overview of the course. It's a facilitated 6-week mind and life transformation process. It's based on the way of mastery and on this idea of immersion learning for 6 weeks. If you do that, you'll get a transformation and a breakthrough. The key spiritual practices include online discussion and meditation sessions, conscious breathing, self-study, and solo meditation. In fact, we include all the 7 modalities that I talked about. And the goal is to help you to learn to let go of negative, stressful thoughts and emotions whenever they arise, so that you can find, these are the results, which you will notice are the same as the secrets that I shared earlier. Result number 1 is authentic happiness. So the aim of the course is to teach you how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions, no matter how challenging the situation provoking them appears to be, and choose to be happy instead. And that is a life-changing skill if you can do that. So I'm not saying you'll master it after 6 weeks, but you will know how to do it. And if you know how to do it, then the likelihood is sooner or later you will do it, because you can no longer claim ignorance. Once you know something, it's not going to go away. So some examples of that: letting go happening. This was Debbie, Kamina's friend. So the Art of Letting Go course helped me to see, helped her to see her subconscious patterns that stop her from doing things in her life that are good for me, like these spiritual practices, yoga, meditation, etc. And that revelation has been huge. I'm very grateful she did the course, and given her a great deal to think about. And she's continuing on. She's a member of the community and continues to practice every day, do meditations every day, and a weekly discussion session. The idea is to make this seem simple. So that's what someone else said, but actually it doesn't have to be complicated. To break it down, make it really simple. Phil, who's been practicing the course for 27 years, said he finally learned how to forgive truly through it. Hazel, who's another member of the community, did the second Art of Letting Go course. We did an exercise, one of the exercises which I'll talk about just now, which we do online. So this wasn't in person. She did it with a lady called Bali. So I split you off into groups of 2. And that night she experienced a feeling of expanding energy radiating from her heart center, which she'd never experienced before. The energy felt like pure love. It was exhilarating to the point of her being wide awake all night, which she said was a stunning experience, which will stay with me for the rest of my life. So when I say this is life-changing, I don't use that word lightly. These experiences can be life-changing. I don't know what you'll experience if you do it, but I can almost guarantee if you do the process properly that you will have some kind of shift and some kind of life-changing experience in and through the 6 weeks. And Lebo is another lady who did it, and so it's about sorting out issues with another mind. This is your higher mind. Of course, calls it your Holy Spirit, and it gives you peace with no lingering guilt or resentment. So it's about happiness to start with, then leading into the second result, which is fulfilling flow in your daily activities. So this is really where the rubber meets the road. It's about knowing how to remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. So how do you stay poised? How do you stay calm no matter what's happening? Even if stuff's going wrong, you're being challenged, as happens in life. This philosophy is not saying you're not going to get challenges. It's saying you'll be able to deal with them in the moment a lot better when you're in a state of flow, and actually enjoy them. So the best performers in any field of endeavor actually enjoy being challenged. They enjoy rising to the occasion. And they enjoy the moment, and they enjoy taking this positive action in response to any situation appropriately. So this is really where the rubber meets the road, and where it starts to translate in a very meaningful, practical, effective way into your daily life. So a couple of examples of that. Lauren, a lady in the US who did the first course, said she had a trip coming up. She was getting a bit stressed out because she had quite a lot to do the day before. She felt she didn't have enough time to get it all done. You might know the feeling. And she just used the deep diaphragmatic breathing that I shared with you at the beginning of the session throughout the morning and the afternoon. No mantras, no thoughts, just deep breaths. I said in one of my emails, controlling the breath controls the mind, which is true. She lived on that. Her mind was at peace, and she did all she wanted to do. Zero mental fuss or chatter. Peace is real for me these days. So that's a great example of flow in action, and using the breath to help you do that. And then some of you might have been receiving my breath breaks. So hopefully you've had some of this experience. This is another lady who did the course. Did one I sent in the afternoon, and she felt totally relaxed and connected. And I get these kinds of testimonials all the time. People say, this is great, it's really helped me. Even helped one lady to get to overcome a panic attack. So potentially life-saving even in the right time, in the right moment. And then finally, the third result is true success. So when you start experiencing more happiness and flow in every aspect of your life, and living this extraordinary ordinary life where you're in flow in your ordinary activities, that gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. So you start to be able to do things that you weren't able to do. Maybe it's not even about doing, it's just about experiencing, just about being in a state of happiness and flow is enough. That's the miracle itself. And if you act in that state, what you do and the results you achieve will be on a higher level, quantum leap up from the normal mind-based, ego-based fear, desire, expectation, disappointment channel that most people are tuned to in this world. So what's the formula for true success? Happiness and peace, even under pressure. So this is a guy called Martin who did the first course. He's a CEO of a medium-sized company. So he's got a little bit of pressure, a little bit of stress arises. And during the course of the first Art of Letting Go course, he had a situation with a client. There was an argument. The guy put the phone down in his ear, and he did some letting go on it. And he said, I've replaced it with peace. He said, I would have found peace whether he apologized or not. Very powerful stuff, this. So the client apologized, but you realize it wasn't really about that. It was actually about finding peace irrespective. So again, a sense of learning more about yourself, fulfilling flow in a sense of higher purpose. So Vim's experience, finding flow in that tennis match, he really enjoyed it. He was at peace, and he learned something profound that day. He learned that he can actually choose to let go of anger and choose consciously to be at peace instead. And all of that equals a more successful life. There's Robin's experience, not taking painkillers, sleeping better, more peace, not as frightened or worried, better relationships. And you heard her story. This is Oprah Winfrey. So I mentioned she is a course student, and she's a very successful woman. She's a billionaire who credits self-awareness as her primary reason why she's achieved the success. She has self-awareness. And she says, don't worry about being successful, but work toward being significant. So by that she means that there's a sense of an inner purpose, there's an inner meaning, and that you create value in what you do, just through who you are. And then that extends out from you. And success will naturally follow. So that is undoubtedly the formula if you're really going to make it sustainable success on this level. You might know people who've tried it the other way, and they've gone about it upside down, and that hasn't worked because it's not sustainable. If you set the goal and then you go, right, I need to achieve that to be happy, you're always stressing and straining and striving, and you never actually get there. And it's very easy to get disappointed and frustrated and ultimately give up. So just to summarize the key results, number one, you'll be authentically happy, because you'll know how to let go of any negative thoughts or emotions, no matter how challenging the situation. Provoking them seems to be, and choose to be happy instead. Secondly, you'll do your daily activities in flow. So you'll know how to remain poised and enjoy the moment while taking positive action to respond to any situation appropriately. And then you'll experience fulfillment, higher purpose, and more success on the level of 4. And just being in flow and being happy is a success in itself. So you can't really lose, irrespective of what your results actually are. So this is about experiencing happiness and flow in every aspect throughout your life, living an extraordinary, ordinary life that gives you and others miraculous experiences and results regularly. So be, do, and then have or experience. That is the authentic way of living your life. If you reverse that and you say, well, I think I need to have certain things, maybe possessions, money, etc., in order to do certain things, in order to be happy, it's the wrong way around, and you actually never end up being happy because your happiness gets sabotaged at step 1 or step 2. So can you see why letting go really is the absolutely critical skill in this? Because it all starts with that. If you can let go, you can experience authentic happiness no matter what's happening. Then you can find fulfilling flow, because happiness is a precursor to flow and relies on it. And then from fulfilling flow can come a sense of fulfillment, higher purpose, and true success. If you can't do those, you can't let go, you can't experience authentic happiness, you can't experience flow, and your fulfillment, your higher purpose, and true success go out the window. So who does this work for? And I'd say anyone over the age of about 30 who genuinely wants to experience more authentic happiness, more flow in your daily life, more fulfillment, higher purpose, and true success, and is willing to open their minds to a very different way of thinking. So this isn't conventional thinking, but then your conventional thinking probably hasn't worked for you. And commit about 2 to 3 hours per day to doing the course Key Spiritual Practices over about 6 weeks. So I'll talk a little bit about that and how you can actually integrate those 2 to 3 hours into your day a little bit later. But don't get freaked out by that, because you can use a lot of dead time and actually use it much more productively. One other thing I want to talk about is over the age of 30. So the reason I say that is because generally, up until about the age of 30, people are still convinced that something outside of themselves is going to work to make them happy and give them what they want in life. So that might be more health, better fitness, a better body, Mr. or Mrs. Right, a better job, more money, and so on and so on. And generally only maybe in their 30s, sometimes later in their 40s, they start to question that. And they start to say, so does this actually really work? Because I've followed this formula, and even if I've achieved stuff, it hasn't really made me happy. And only when people start to question themselves are they then open to this kind of a teaching. So these are the 7 key spiritual practices that are incorporated into it. So meditation, I give you a meditation track, a 1 hour, a 40-minute version of a half-hour version. Remember, I'll give you that half-hour version for free today if you stay till the end. So hang in there. I'm only about 10 or 15 minutes off that. Nearly finished this. So the guided letting go meditation, which was recorded. There's 2 20-minute live guided sessions every weekday, 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. UK time, which is 9:30 and 6 p.m. South African time. Then there's forgiveness and letting go. So the 10-step letting go process that I'm also going to give you. I'm going to give you the written and the instruction sheet for that. It's included in the guiding letting go meditation. And there's a number of other shorter letting go techniques in the Art of Letting Go course manual as well, which you'll have access to. Breath and mind training breaks. So some of you might have experienced these. You'll get 2 recorded 5 to 10 minute breath breaks sent via WhatsApp, combined with practicing the mind training lesson for the day from the Course in Miracles workbook. So meditation is kind of integrated with the lesson, which will help you to go a little bit deeper and learn the lesson on a deeper level. Group discussion sessions, so we'll have discussion of the ideas in the reading, and also there will be a Q&A opportunity once a week. So there's 1 pre-recorded session of about 90 minutes available Monday through to Friday. There's 1 live 2-hour session every Sunday evening. So all of that equates to about 10 hours of video and audio per week, about 60 hours in total during the whole course. There's reading, so not a lot of reading, but it's one lesson, which is typically a page to 2 pages from the Course in Miracles workbook in the morning. You might want to refer to that during the day. And then one section of the Course in Miracles text, which is typically 2 to 3 pages every evening. So not a lot of reading, but it's profound reading, and it's not about volume, it's about really going deep into these ideas and starting to understand them on a deeper level. 4 powerful questions to ask yourself and answer at the end of every day, and the end of day reflection. So I guide you through that. I've given you some extra tools and recordings to help you do that. And a pre-bred relaxation, which is listening to the Power Sleep meditation track. It uses binaural beats to train your brainwaves into an alpha state so that you get into a mode where you don't sleep. Alpha is when you fall asleep naturally, and so you fall asleep more easily and sleep more deeply. So the structure in week 1, we do an introduction. We explore some of the theory behind the Art of Letting Go course, which is the theory of the Course in Miracles primarily. We'll read and discuss the first chapter of the Course in Miracles text. We'll work through exercises 1 to 3 in the Art of Letting Go course manual. And then in weeks 2 to 6, we'll work through the rest of the text. Sorry, not the whole text. We'll work through chapters 2 to 5. So we work through the first 5 chapters and the first 35 lessons. Course in Miracles workbook, and we'll work through exercises 4 to 11 in the Art of Letting Go course manual. There'll also be a holotropic breathing session to conclude, so how powerful that was for Phil, and quite a bit else in there, but that will be revealed as we go. So it's going to start Sunday, this Sunday the 26th of January, end on Sunday the 8th of March, so just over 6 weeks. Live meditations, 9:30 and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. Those are the GMT times. And the live discussion sessions on Sunday evenings, 8 to 10 in South Africa, 6 to 8 GMT time. So I'm going to talk very briefly about some of the tools, and then I'm going to wrap this up. So hang in there. You'll get the following tools in the Art of Letting Go course information and exercise pack. So first of all, the 10-step letting go process outline and written worksheet. I will give you that tonight, just as my way of saying thank you. You stay till the end. You'll get instructions for 5 shorter letting go processes to help you to release a little bit more quickly. Some documents to help you understand the theory of letting go. A worksheet for the Name Your Game exercise, which is very powerful. It's about revealing your ego to you. And then the follow-up exercises help you to turn that around and find your higher self and purpose. 5 extra transformational mind training exercises, the 12 pathways to higher consciousness, a map of consciousness to help you navigate the levels of your mind, a daily schedule planner to help you to structure your ideal day, and there's some inspirational quotes and even some poetry. So all designed to inspire you. That's about a 50-page document, which I would sell for £20 because there's a lot in that. That's really a synthesis of 20 years of my own spiritual growth and learning. So then meditation, I mentioned the Letting Go meditation power pack, guided Letting Go theta meditation, so a 1 hour, 40 minutes and a half-hour version. As I said, I'll give you the half-hour version if you stay till the end as my gift to you to say thank you. I think you run, so this is what a guy called Mike, who did the first course, had to say about the meditation. Model of daily meditation is a really good one. Gets everyone really engaged, really helps you to make you feel that you're completely immersed. I do think it is a fantastic process and sets you up brilliantly for the day. So that's Mike. And then the Power Sleep track, which is 40 minutes. You don't have to listen to all of it. I tend to listen to 10 to 20 minutes before bed, stereo headphones. Takes me into a nice state when my mind is in alpha and I'm ready to go to sleep. So it entrains your brainwave patterns to an alpha state. It's quite clever technology. And that's what Patricia, another lady who did the first course and a long-time student of A Course in Miracles, had to say. I think I had the best night's sleep I've had in a long time, woke up refreshed and willing to start a new day. Thank you for the course. I'm finding it most helpful. So it's a £20 value as well. Art of Letting Go course tools. So holotropic breathing. Holotropic breathing was awesome, Martin. So this is a process I do remotely. It takes about an hour, and I just guide you through a breathing process, and I give you a music track to listen to. And it really is a mind-blowing process, as Joanne said. It will take you to different parts of your life, as Robin says, where there's difficulty, where healing is necessary. And in this process, you can go a lot deeper in 45 minutes than maybe you've ever been into your mind, and you can let go of some very deeply held subconscious beliefs and trauma. The process has been known to cure cancer. I've actually had an experience like that with someone. So it's incredibly powerful, and that's kind of the end of the course. And as I won't go through this again, but Phil mentioned that it helped him to have a real breakthrough and a catharsis. So I was charging £15 for that in the UK for a session. 6 weeks access to the Art of Letting Go Facebook group I've mentioned. So this was a post just at the end of the first course, a couple of days after the first course started, 2018. You can see the date there. Lady called Bali, who subsequently did the second course as well, said how withdrawal symptoms, I didn't realize just how spoiled I've become. Trying to posting lessons and reminders every day. I'm already missing it. Enjoy your break, and blessings everyone. So some powerful stuff in the course, in the Facebook group. I'm going to send you 2 daily reminder emails to give you the lessons and the text from the Course in Miracles to read every day, plus the links to resources like the discussion sessions. So that's what Vim had to say. Thanks for all the emails. 2 daily reminder emails, £1 a day. 2 WhatsApp audio recordings to guide you through a 5 to 10 minute breath break every morning and afternoon, and also help you to practice the daily lesson in a meditation. I mentioned this before. This lady actually was having a panic attack when she got one of these, and it stopped her from freaking out and having a panic attack. So doing these breath breaks is that powerful. And it's about centering yourself and grounding yourself and remembering who I am, as she says. 2 daily breath breaks valued at £1 each. So you'll get about 70 hours of recorded discussion sessions, video and audio, so whichever format you prefer. About 14 hours of live discussion sessions, about 30 hours of live meditation sessions, somewhere around 114 hours of recorded and live discussion and meditation sessions during the 6 weeks. You don't have to do all of that. If you do all of that, you'll have done extremely well. If you manage about half of that, you'll be doing well enough. That's 50 to 60 hours in the course of 6 weeks, about 10 hours a week. And that's what immersion is about. That is what will create the shift and the change in you. There's an example of some of the posts and the videos on Facebook. This is going to be posted in the Facebook group straight away. It's because we're live on Facebook. So it goes in there straight away, and this session is accessible to all the members. So this is Mike's quite a long testimony. I'll summarize this. He's really talking about the discussion sessions. He's saying that he really enjoyed the fact that there were 2 calls a day. We're just going to be doing 1. I think your teaching is very good. You clearly invested a lot of study, able to discuss at length, keep the flow going, find an aspect to talk about. So I do a fair amount of that. But there's a lot of interaction as well. There's a lot of questions and answers. So it's a nice format to learn in. It's not just a monologue. And you also learn from other people's questions and their perspectives. He said it yielded great results for me. In-call meditations are really amazing. Find your meditation practice into one with the course content really works well. So you'll be getting that in the discussion sessions as well as the breath breaks. And he said most of all, I've really enjoyed being connected with people all over the world. So that group energy and just learning, hearing different perspectives from everyone. And then, as Vim reiterated, that there's a powerful dynamic in doing the course material together as a group and sharing energy. So all of that, I value each session at £10, about 114 hours, £10 an hour. Plus, there's some free bonuses. So you're going to get access to about 70 hours of video and audio recordings of discussion sessions during the first Art of Letting Go trial course, and also the club sessions, community sessions since November. So we've been having those for about 3 months. It's all available in the Facebook group. And I'm planning to put that into an online portal as well. website over the course of the next 6 weeks. So you'll have access to that. Now this is key. So to actually listen to these, you can download them and you can listen to the audio sessions when you're driving. If you have a commute to work, you can listen to it en route to work, on the way back from work. So that might use up half an hour to an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how long your commute is of time. And you can actually get your 90-minute discussion session in driving. Or you could be going for a walk, you could be exercising. You can use that time to listen. And as she said, it just helps me to be in the session, collapses time for me, helps me to let go of the negative, stressful thoughts, used to preoccupy her mind. And she's listening and applying the ideas, and she still does this. So all of this content is available for you in the Facebook group, and also as audio. You can download it and listen to it. So about 70 hours of that, £700 value, about 30 hours of recorded meditation sessions. I'm adding to those all the time, so it's probably more than 30 hours now. An 8-phase abundance meditation. I give you access to breath watching, relaxation, and light meditations. Usually incorporating a day's Course in Miracles workbook lesson. So there's a lot of that material all in the Facebook group. And as I said, I'm going to be putting it into a website as well. In case you're not familiar with the benefits of meditation, here are a couple of them. So about finding more harmony, helping you to be more grateful for life, helping you to be more productive and organize your time better, can help you to lose weight, and help you to let go of addictions. So it's very good for alcohol and drug addiction. Increases immunity, it improves your metabolism, boosts your health generally, makes you feel happier, reduces your stress, helps you to sleep better, improves your ability to respond more appropriately. So many benefits of regular meditation. So the idea is, in this course, you'll establish a regular meditation practice. So about 30 hours, audio recordings of the guided meditations. So £150 value, and there's additional 3-month access to the Art of Letting Go Facebook group as well. So I'll give you access for 3 months afterwards, so that if there's any content you want to review, you want to have a look at it, you can do that. And there's an example of a post. That's not my post. I just post stuff from other spiritual teachers who I respect, like Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza. There's a lot of content in there that does add a lot of value. So total value of the tools, £2,307. But don't freak out, I'm not going to charge you that. That's just the value that I'm giving you. So normally I discount that by 90%. So okay, well, normal investment $230, but I'm going to give you a free trial discount. So you might have seen that I'm giving you a 3-week free trial, and the voucher's valued £100. So just include that as a discount to make your life easier and this more affordable. There's a £33 early bird discount, which is available tonight only. If you sign up tonight until 12 p.m. GMT, so you've actually got till 2 a.m. South African time. So sometime before you go to bed, if you go and sign up, you will get that price of £97, which is a 95% discount to value, over 95% discount to total value. So we hit the roadblock. So you might be thinking, well, there's a number of reasons why I can't do this. And if you live in South Africa, you'll know what it feels like, the sinking feeling when you hit a police roadblock. So let me try and get rid of this. And sometimes roadblocks can be persistent, so you need to persist a little bit with it, persevere to overcome it. So I'm going to give you some ways around some of the potential roadblocks that you might be having. If this roadblock will ever move out the way, there we go. We finally got him to bounce out the way. It's kind of how it is with roadblocks. Sometimes you have to struggle a little bit with them. So number one, you might say I don't have the time. So firstly, I'd say if you watch any TV, just watch less TV. Watch an hour less TV in the evening. Go to bed an hour earlier so you can get up an hour earlier to meditate in the morning. And you can do the letting go meditation track. It's a great way to set yourself up for the day. And you're trading an hour of letting something or someone else tell you your vision for what is really a great spiritual practice. Then integrating the other key spiritual practices into your daily routine to make you more effective and productive. So take the breath breaks when you need a break, listen to discussion sessions while you're doing other activities such as driving, eating, cooking, and walking. So fill that dead time, and you can actually get in the 90 minutes of listening a day quite easily in that time. You might say you're not ready for this yet. So if you're over 30, I'd say that's just an excuse to avoid taking responsibility for your own happiness, flow, fulfillment, purpose, and success. In case you haven't realized yet, I'm sure you have, so I'm not patronizing you, but just to reiterate, no one else is responsible for these. Only you can do this for yourself. And your life isn't going to last forever. A decade goes by very quickly. 20 years pass very quickly. The World Cup last year, you probably recall the first World Cup. I was at the World Cup final over 24 years ago, and it just seems to have flown by. So carpe diem, seize the day. Time goes very, very quickly, and before you know it, 5 or 10 years has passed, and nothing's really happened, nothing's really shifted for you. And we'll give you all the tools and the support that you need to do this. And I've talked about what those tools are. Finally, you might say, I can't afford this. So it comes down to the money. So firstly, I'll say it's your happiness, flow, success, fulfillment, purpose in life. If you don't invest in yourself and your life, what are you really saying? You're saying that I'm not worth it. And the whole point of the course is to help you to increase your self-worth, because that really is at the core of all of our problems. So if you devalue yourself and you say I'm not worth it, then can't really help you. What I will say also is that action is the most powerful form of affirmation. So when you act on something, you're really saying you believe it. If you don't act, well, how firm is your commitment? Do you really believe it or not? So when you pay for something, what you're really telling yourself, more importantly than anyone else, is that you are worthy of it all. And that is a very important part of the whole transformation process. It also ensures that you value and you pay attention to what you're learning. So in my experience, too often if something's free, people don't really value it, they don't really pay attention to it, and they don't get the full value or any value from it. So when you pay attention. Then on a practical level, as I mentioned, your free trial voucher entitles you to a 3-week free trial and a money-back guarantee. So you don't have to risk anything. If you decide you'd rather not continue with the course in the first 3 weeks, you'll get a full refund. And there's a little case study to this. In the first Art of Letting Go course, Mike Farewell, you've seen me, he's given me a couple of great testimonials. So he really did get a lot of value out of it. But he left after about 19 days because he had some issues with the core philosophy behind the Course in Miracles. Didn't reconcile with his existing kind of belief. And so he left. And so I said, well, if anyone does that in the first 3 weeks, I wouldn't want to take their money. So hence the 3-week free trial. So you can give it a try. If you're not happy, first 3 weeks, you get your money back. You can also earn some referral fees. So if people you refer to this webinar do the Art of Letting Go course, 2 referrals pays for 40% of your place on the standard course. Not a lot of time. This is my last webinar before the course starts, but I will post this. I will send you a link to this. It's going to be on YouTube and Facebook, so you can share it, and who knows, next couple of days, some people might decide to join as a result of your referral. Finally, you can also pay £19 or 350 Rand to lock in the early bird discount until the middle of February. So you pay the £19, you lock in that early bird discount, which is £33. So you'll pay £97 as long as you sign up to continue doing the course after the first 3 weeks, which so you lock it until the middle of February. You also will get immediate access and lifetime access to the Letting Go meditation pack, which includes 4 tracks. In there, there's 3 versions of the guided letting go meditation plus the power sleep track to help you sleep. You'll get the Art of Letting Go course manual, which is about 50 pages of information and exercises. You'll get 4 weeks access to the Art of Letting Go Facebook group. So from today until the middle of February. All of that's £91 value. So you can also do the course for free. If you have £400 to deposit, what I call an accountability deposit, you can do it and you can get your deposit back at the end of the course, provided you meet a few criteria. So you need to attend at least 5 discussion sessions, live discussion sessions, including the introductory one and the closing one, and there's 2 in between that are pretty critical: the name your game exercise and the blueprint exercise, because I want you to get the most out of this. So that's what your accountability deposit is about. Attending at least 20 live meditation sessions, so there'll be 60 during the course, so you attend about a third of them. Complete all 11 exercises in the course manual and send me those exercises completed. Complete an online questionnaire after the course finishes. Give a 10-minute video recorded testimonial. And the course, would you happy to let me use more for marketing purposes? So a few things there, but if you do all that and you pay £400, you can get it back. I will also make you an offer as to what to do with the £400 at the end, but that's up to you whether you want to accept that offer or not. So to finish, I would say, can you afford not to do this? Because it's your life. Life happens very quickly, and before we know it, it's over. And I'm going to finish off with this quote by Marianne Williamson, which I mentioned earlier, so I thought it was appropriate that I actually gave it to you. This is the quote Nelson Mandela used when he came out of prison in his first speech. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. A beautiful quote, hopefully an inspiring quote. Quote really saying, make the most of it, it doesn't last forever, and liberate yourself and others from fear. So if you'd like to do that, if you'd like to get started now, there's a summary of the offers, so £97 for a single. There's a couple, Mike and Vanessa, £174. There's the joints as an extra 10% discount for you, the couple, if you sign up together. And there's also the deposit option to lock in the early bird discount until mid-February, £19, which gets you everything. You're in the course, you get the guided letting go, meditation, get access to the Facebook group, and also the course manual. So free trial saving you a fair amount of money. It's something like over £1,300. Just go to that URL, jointheaolg.club, standing for jointheartoflettinggo.club. Take advantage. If you do that before midnight tonight GMT, you get the £33 extra discount. So it's worth doing if you want to do it. Act tonight. So just to wrap up, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Hopefully I've given you enough information and inspiration to make that decision and take the first step tonight. It doesn't start without the first step. If you go away and you think about it and never take the first step, well, it's never going to happen. And this year might just be the same as every other year. The idea is that you can make it very, very different by doing something different. So go to jointheaolg.club to book your place online. Major debit and credit cards accepted, so Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. You can also transfer directly into our UK or South African bank account. So all those options are on there. And if you want to include one-on-one coaching, there's also an option on that page to get more out of the course. That is an option. So check it out and chat to me afterwards. I'm going to have some questions just now. So which way will you choose? This is a scene from The Matrix, the famous pill scene, if you've seen the movie. So Neo, who's the initiate, who's been led down this road to a point where he's got to make a final choice, given to him by Morpheus. This is the god of dreams, and Morpheus is all about transformation. He says to him, you've got a choice. All right? Here's the red pill, here's the blue pill. If you take the blue pill, you wake up tomorrow morning, you believe whatever you want to believe. You don't go anywhere else, you don't progress, you don't transform. If you take the red pill, then I'll show you how far down the rabbit hole goes. And then he says, he warns him finally, he says, but remember, all I'm promising you is the truth, nothing more. And so I'll say the same thing to you. This is based on the truth, the ultimate truth. It's not necessarily an easy truth to accept, but it is the only thing that will work. It's the only thing that will really give you a sense of authentic happiness, fulfilling flow, higher purpose, and lead a truly successful life. And so I hope it would be my honor and my privilege for you to take the red pill with me and let me lead you a little bit down the rabbit hole into your mind, and come out the other end 6 weeks from now a transformed person, where you can actually say that my life has changed and I will never be the same again, and the rest of your life starts. So the journey of the rest of your life could start today, tonight, or not. It's up to you. As usual, the choice is yours.